Welcome, everyone. I am back here for our weekly live. I'm Callie King. I'm here with Andrea Wadey. And today we're talking about, I would say, simplifying one element of horse training. So I have a question that I want to start us off with today. I want you to think about how many directions can a horse go? So when, when we get into training, we know there are so many techniques out there. There's so many different methods. And one of the things that I know Andrea and I both love to do is we like to simplify. I think simplifying, especially in the beginning, until you really get those fundamentals grounded, is a great way to begin with any horse. And today we're going to talk about this idea of how many directions can a horse really go? How can we simplify training? And especially, how can we use even the most, I'm going to say, mundane moments, like leading your horse in from the pasture, to be a training experience, just meaning an experience that improves your relationship with your horse and also that is going to even improve your horse's responses under saddle. I think sometimes there's this disconnect for riders in when they're just doing the day to day and then when they get in the saddle and how they expect their horse to behave. So that's what we're talking about today. Andrea, where do you want to start in this?
Well, I think you just hit the nail on the head of something that I'm really passionate about. So, most of my teaching focus, all of my teaching focus, is out of the saddle. So, liberty and online. And you hit the nail on the head by saying when you're doing mundane things like leading your horse in, and it's all about putting it to a purpose. The amount of disconnect that you see when people go to get their horse so they can do training. It's like, no, the minute you set eyes on your horse, it's game on. The connection is either there or it isn't, or you're overusing your tools or you're not using them at all. So I think it's about putting things to a purpose. And I'm going to be honest, these days, I don't even want to get on a horse that isn't connected and responsive online on the ground. I have no interest. I'm like, if I can't ask that horse to move in as many directions as a horse can go, someone's going to say it in the comments in a minute, then I don't want to be then getting on, because I'm like, well, if they're not responding to simple requests on the ground, are they going to listen when I get on their back? And I'm the wrong side of 50. I don't need to be a hero on the back of a horse anymore. I want that responsiveness. But you're right in putting it to a purpose. So, like when you go to get your horse out of the field and you need to shut the gate, and there might be other horses around, can you, just using your rope, back your horse out the gate so they've moved out of the way so you can easily close the gate? Can you ask them to move sideways across to the hay net, which is there for them? Fab. So I train my horses several times a week online, but I'm talking 5-10 minutes. This is what we talked about last week, how effective it is to do small training sessions. So people tend to go, yeah, I work online, I'm just lunging my horse. For me, that doesn't tick the box, because lunging quite often is a very controlled exercise where the horse is mindlessly going round in circles until they're told to stop. The kind of online stuff that I'm talking about is I want the horse going, oh, is it this? Is it that? What do they want? And then you have that connection with the horse's brain. We got a pause there, I think. So, yeah, my idea with training horses online is not to make it a workout. You want it to be training their brain. And what I tend to see quite often is I will see two types of student when it comes to online work. And I've taught a lot of students all around the world, and this is pretty universal. When you get especially to sort of my age and older, people have a great friendship with their horse. They have a great connection, and they're worried about asking anything of the horse in case they ruin the friendship. And then they become a little bit frozen where they're like, I don't really know how to ask something anymore because I have this great friendship and I'm scared I'm going to ruin it. Or I don't know how to ask properly and I'm worried of getting it wrong and messing up my horse. Then we tend to have the other end of the spectrum where people will be not asking their horse anything. The horse is maybe pushing on them, maybe getting a little frustrated themselves because they're going, I don't know what you want of me. And then the student will get too big, too emotional. And the horse is like, whoa, what do you want? Why are you acting like a crazy person? And we have the two ends of the spectrum. What we want is the middle ground where you can go to your horse and be like, hey, I need you to go over there for me. No, I need you to go now. And still keep that friendship intact. And you know what? So many times the horse is like, oh, cool. My leader in this moment has turned up. And you know, Callie, you and I both know leadership. We don't look at the horse communication as the human is the leader. It's an evolving ball where the leadership is passed between each other. But it needs sometimes to be our turn. And that's where I see people getting either too emotional or not able to move the horse at all.
And I think that's a really important thing is there's a lot of comfort that comes for the horse in clarity. When we have clarity of what we're asking for. When we're not clear, and again, going back to just simple asking the horse to walk forward, to take a step back at the gate, to move over if you're in the cross ties and you need a little more space on one side. These really simple things. If we ask in a way where we're not quite sure what we want the horse to do, or we're really overly having this discussion in our mind of, oh, well, what if he doesn't want to? What if it's too early in the morning? What if he hasn't eaten yet? What if, this,
Yeah.
this. The horse can feel that. They can feel that uncertainty within us. And then they usually respond with that same uncertainty. It depends on the personality of the horse. Just like some horses, when they're around a nervous human, some horses will respond to that by also becoming nervous. Some horses are really steady and they won't become nervous, but they might just kind of go do their own thing because they're not getting the clarity in the direction. So a really simple step that I like to tell students is, do you have a mental picture of what you want? Can you just, before you ask for something, can you pause for a moment, get a clear mental picture of what you want, and then ask for it? And ask for it with that mental picture in mind, because that's so powerful, and the request is going to be a lot more clear to the horse, even if your technique is not perfect. And that's in the ground and applies to riding too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're completely right. And actually, last night I had a Q&A call with my mentorship group. I have people that I coach on an 8-week mentorship group. And I had a conversation with somebody about the use of training tools. So obviously, I teach a lot of liberty, but the mentorship is actually a 8-week mentorship course about using tools. And it's not about the tools, it's about us. It's about having that liberty mindset. People go, well, I don't want to use a stick. And it's like, do you not trust the stick, or do you not trust yourself with the stick? Because a stick is nothing. It means nothing. If you pick up a broom, you don't ever think, oh, I don't want to have a broom around my horse. Why? Because you're just sweeping the floor. It doesn't even enter your mind. But when a human picks up a stick, we have so much baggage attached to the thought of sticks. Even for some people of certain age groups, way back when they were kids, their parents might have had sticks. So
I've seen brooms also used in some pretty bad ways with horses.
Absolutely.
And some people might have negative experiences with brooms as a child as well.
For sure. But if we are compassionate, calm people around horses, And we hear it so much, oh, a stick is just an extension of my arm. No one ever really thinks about it. But think about this. People are very willing to pull their horse along, putting loads of tension on the rope, pulling the horse on the pole, making them dull, making them uncomfortable. When actually a training stick and string in the right hands, in trustworthy hands, becomes an incredible tool, because what you can do is swing that stick and string out behind you. You don't even need to touch the horse. You're creating energy behind you. That is the most natural way for a horse to know to move. Callie, you and I have sat in California amongst wild herds. It's an absolute blessing when we get to do this. How many wild horses did you see pulling the other one from the front? It doesn't happen. But us humans love to do it. What we do see in the herds, not just the stallion, not just the lead mare, but you see plenty of other horses driving others from behind. So when we go to work with a horse online, asking with a bit of energy with the stick and string behind us does not feel cruel to that horse. It feels very natural. And they will come up beside you on a loose lead rope without any of the damage, potential damage on the pole. So it's just learning to think outside the box and be able to help people move more to the middle. You know, yes, I can ask my horse to do something without ruining the relationship. No, I don't have to get so emotional. I can just very clearly say, hey, I need you to move, and I need you to move now, because maybe I've seen some broken glass. Maybe the mountain is on fire. But I need you to listen to me, and I need you to do it now. Later, when everything is calm and we're walking together and you want to stop and look at something, great, I'm there with you. But there are times when we need to ask our horses and we need a response.
And I want to come back to what we talked about in the beginning of kind of the simplicity of different directions, and how, you know, horses can only move in so many directions. And when we can get those fundamentals really good, then there's many more things we can play with. But talking about this idea that you had mentioned of people often being too aggressive, or on the other side being actually too soft, where we have this lack of clarity. I know that you do a mentorship program. When you're working with people, what do you find is most common? And I'm going to also put that with our community of riders that they want to do right by the horse, and they often are coming back to riding or starting out later in life. Because if we look at the whole community of horse people, that might be a different answer. But in your experience, what do you help people with most commonly?
This side of the scale. So people who are really conscious of the relationship, really conscious of not messing their horse up, of getting it wrong. Self-doubt, real self-doubt. And, you know, pretty much if someone is willing to create change, we can produce confident horse people who know how to work with their horse with clarity and calmness, and we can create changes really quickly. It's just letting people know that they're okay, they're perfect just the way they are, and that they're not going to damage their horse or their friendship by asking them to do something. And in actual fact, the opposite is true. It absolutely flourishes when they become consistent and clear. The horses do not mind being asked to do something. It's how they're asked that counts. And if we're really, really wishy-washy, it can bring up aggression in horses. It can shut them down because they don't really know what it is that you're asking. It can cause a disconnect. It can be more damaging than coming in, being effective and clear. Even if you're using tools, even if you're using a stick and a string, we are not talking about hitting a horse. Never, ever, ever is that needed. We're talking about using our energy towards the back end of the horse. When we get that right, the connection is so strong, so strong.
So, what are the directions that you teach of horses that can move, or of
Well, the
directions that
question is, yeah,
available
the question is
directions?
how many? There's six. So there's forward, backwards, left, right, up and down. And in the mentorship, we approach all of those. I'm not talking about getting a horse, making a horse lie down. I don't do that. I don't We're talking about functional movements that are helping the horse's biomechanics. And this is the thing with online. You can move these horses in all these directions where they enjoy it. They can enjoy it. It makes their body feel better. Once they know that you are not going to ask too much, this is where we bring in the 1% rule that we've talked about in previous episodes, where we just ask a little thing and we reward it. And the horse goes, if they're asking, I know they're not going to ask too much, so I'm going to give it a go. So there's all those directions that we work on, which can really help the horse feel more balanced in the body, feel looser and freer. And it's things that you can do like when the weather's bad as well. We're talking 5 minutes. It's not anything that you have to have perfect weather for. You can do it in your stable. And like Callie said at the beginning, you can put it then to a purpose. And these exercises that I teach, you can do just before you ride. You're going to have a better ride. So yeah, I just think working a horse online is a really, really good way to increase the way that you can communicate with your horse, to give you more options.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. And when, again, coming back to the simple online work, it doesn't need to be going out for a training session. It can just be in those moments of going out to bring your horse in from the field, working in the barn as you're tacking up, going to and from the arena. I was just having a discussion this week with a student about setting up training, like a training schedule. Setting up, okay, what do I do on Monday, then what do I do on Tuesday, etc. And I have found, and I shared this with the student, I have found that the more that I have actually let go of having a quote unquote training plan, the more that my horses have flourished. And I think that comes with a caveat of the more that we learn, and we do reach a certain point. I have a wide bank of exercises. I've got kind of a lot of things that I can easily pull out and improvise. So in the beginning, we do need more of these fundamental, okay, I do this exercise, I do this exercise, I do this exercise. But then we can start to improvise, and those moments of just interaction are so good for that improvising. You mentioned an example earlier that I love, going in and out of the gate. There's so many little skills that the horse can learn and practice going in and out of the gate. Can they follow a little draw? If you're opening the gate and you're opening it for them, can they follow a draw and come through? Can they then move their hindquarters around? Can they maybe take a step or two back? Can they stand quietly and wait as you close the gate? I mean, there's just moving a horse through a gate. There is a gold mine of opportunities. And building on what we talked about in the last episode too, breaks are so important. So that little 2 minutes of going through that gate and maybe asking for 4 responses. Okay, can you walk forward? Can you turn? Can you stop? Can you stand? Those little responses, and then you're just walking again. And that walking and moving with them provides a little bit of that break. Or you walk through and you give them permission to graze for a few minutes before you walk, and then you're in kind of another little training set in that walk from your gate into the barn or wherever you're going.
Yeah.
And that's to me the beauty of structured training, is thinking more about it in those little micro bits, more than, okay, today I'm doing 10 minutes of walk, 20 minutes of trot, 10 canter transitions, etc.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. They are all those micro sessions. They are training sessions. If you're mindful, you've got to be present in that interaction, because people do it just so unconscious. They are still training their horse, to lean on the rope that they're perpetually pulling because they're not aware enough to go, actually, I've not released. So it's that, who do you need to be in that moment? Are you relaxed enough? Is your stomach relaxed? Are your shoulders down? Have you left your baggage from the day in the car in the parking lot? Can you come and be present? And then you don't need to structure so much these training sessions because you're already doing it. You're doing it in every interaction with your horse. And I say that to my students that, as I was saying, this program is 8 weeks that layer on top of each other. But I would get to the end of the 8 weeks, I'm like, you're amazing, you've graduated. Now don't do that in order anymore. Like, split it up and use it to a purpose.
Yes, yeah, which is just what I was talking about when we're starting any new activity, not just horsemanship, we need that, okay, I do this, I do this, I do this. We start to build a bank of exercises, and then you can go into improvising. You can start to have the confidence to recognize, oh, here's a training moment. I could do this little exercise to help my horse be softer. I could do this. Yeah, and I know you have some openings in the mentorship program ongoing. It kind of depends on how many people are booked. So if you're watching this and you're interested, send us a direct message.
Yeah, absolutely. We have students going through at the moment, but I'd certainly be open to chatting to anyone that I love meeting students. So if someone was interested at some point in doing a 8-week mentorship with me where we can make some big changes, we can always hop on like a Zoom call. I want to hear about you and your horse. But yeah, that would be something I'd be open to for sure. Yeah. And I think something to really take home from the conversation that we've had is how much, and Callie, you touched on this at the beginning, it's how much those horses really like the clarity. And the way to have clarity is to build a habit of skills where it becomes natural to you. And that's why we give ourselves, through the mentorship, the breakdown of doing things like in small bite sizes as well, and then layering them together, because then when it comes to moving the horse through the gate, you know exactly what to do with your body, and you are bringing the clarity, and the horse is like, this is awesome, I know exactly what you want me to do. They like to harmonize with us, they like to understand what it is that we're asking and to get it right, just like we like to feel. So I think it's something that's really important.
Yes, I agree. Well, we are going live at this time each week. If you have a question, we would love to answer your questions. We're communicating with our students all week long, and that's usually what inspires us to come with these topics here. Certain questions, conversations that we've had. So if you're watching this as part of our online community, send an email to info@horseclass.com, write it in the comments below wherever you're watching this, and we would love to answer your questions in our upcoming episodes.
Great. Thanks, everybody. It's lovely to be chatting with you, and we look forward to speaking to you all next week. And yes, if anyone does want to talk about a connection, talking about a mentorship, just send us a DM and we'll get back to you.
See you next week.
Bye, guys.